Welcome to episode 7 of SWF The Aftermath. I'm your host, Chris Carnage, and it's been a little while since I've posted an episode, so I'll go ahead and catch everybody up on what happened last week, so we're caught up on all the storylines. At the beginning of the show last week, Eric Eisen, in a pre-recorded segment, was shown laying in a hospital bed. He had casts and bandages wrapped all around him, heavily selling the beating that not necessarily a beating. He took the finish the prior week, so 2 weeks ago. He took the finish from Vengeance, Angry Gilmore, Remo, and Rogue. So he's kind of selling his injuries. Said he doesn't know when he'll be back, doesn't know if he'll make it for the pay-per-view, nothing to lose. So later in the show, Jerry Eisen told him he will make it for the pay-per-view or he won't have a title to defend. We had the Bumfoles and the Awesomeness the last 2 weeks, having victories in tag matches against other opponents. Last week, the Awesomeness took a little bit longer to beat their opponents than did the Bumfoles 2 weeks ago, and the Bumfoles kind of gave them some shit about it when they came backstage, so they started brawling. Agents had to break it up, so there's a little bit of tension between them. Also, after Eric Eisen's pre-recorded announcement of the false injuries that he suffered, Angry Gilmore, Remo, and Rogue were asking Jerry Eisen what's going on with their main event world title rematch. At the first pay-per-view we ran, when Hell Freezes Over, the match kind of ended in chaos when the two masked assassins came out and just destroyed everybody except for Eric Eisen. That's kind of when that storyline started, and they haven't had a fair shot at the title since. Hollywood Brett was granted a North American title match. He will join Paul Huntingdon and Joey Morgan at Nothing to Lose, so that will be a three-way pay-per-view, or a three-way triple threat match for the North American title. And that came about because he beat Joey Morgan, although he didn't really beat him. And then he won last week as well. So he feels that he's hot and he's deserving, and he's been playing up his heritage. Mickey Starr was the first ever SWF World Champion, which is his father, and he also has the longest reign. It was either 4 or 6 years, so Brett feels that he's deserving of a title match just on those merits. We also saw the Crippler win his match against Mainstream Hernandez on a technicality when Jack Bruce came in and started beating on him while the match was going on. So Crippler tried to get away, of course, because he's the heel. And Bruce chased him all around the arena, getting in a couple of shots here and there, but not doing a whole lot of damage. Crippler was able to get away for the most part. And like I said, he didn't take too much damage, so we'll see how that develops this week. And then lastly, we saw Brandon James destroy Valiant at the end of the night, as well as Chrissy Angel and Hannah brawling, choking, hair pulling. Basically a cat fight. Neither of the two women are wrestlers. They actually have no skills in the game. So I don't really see them doing much more than just your old school Attitude Era cat fight type stuff. Hair pulling, scratching, slapping, their little thing where they beat their head into the mat, shit like that. But that came about because on the prior week, I believe Brandon James came out and basically shoved Hannah off of Chrissy Angel, and Valiant vowed revenge, and then he called him out on last week's episode, and he said, what you did last week was despicable. You need to get your ass out here, and we need to have a man-to-man, a face-to-face. So Squeaky McLean came out and said, this is a family show. Kids watch this. You need to keep it Squeaky McLean out here. So that led to their main event, which Valiant won. Excuse me. So, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get to the show. So, we see the Bumfoles arriving to the ring to start it out, and Jefferson Stardust and Huey Cannonball of the Awesomeness attack them from behind. They throw them into the wall, throw them into the crates that all the merchandise and equipment comes in. And it's basically a brawl reminiscent of their post-match brawl last week, except this time the Awesomeness definitely win the battle. They definitely have the upper hand, and they do a little bit of damage to the Bumfoles. So the the Awesomeness look like They're going into Nothing to Lose with a little bit of an upper hand. Then we see Mikey Lau and Hollywood Brett Starr face off. A little bit of context before talk about how this match went down. I forgot to mention last week Mikey Lau also challenged Monty Trescard after knocking out the sensational Kashmir Singh with his roundhouse kick. Knocked him out inside of a minute and challenged Monty. Monty didn't get back to him. So on this match, Hollywood Brett Starr picks up the win. I don't know why it's not on here. But, oh, I guess that's why I didn't put the distraction note. I could have sworn I did. Okay. Anyway, so Monty comes out to distract Mikey Lau and cost him the match against Hollywood Brett Starr. Brett Starr rolls under the ropes, and Mikey is just seething. You know, he gets rolled up, and then he's staring through the middle rope, and then he stands up, and he's like pointing at Monty, and he's screaming, "You son of a bitch, you cost me the match, I'm going to kick your ass." You know, stuff like that. So Monty gets back up to the ramp, and somebody backstage brings him a mic, behind the curtain, gorilla, whatever. And he goes, "Mikey, I heard your challenge last week, and I think you'll be surprised to know that I accept. I'll see you in 2 weeks, buddy." And Mikey's his anger kind of turned into a grin of some sorts, because he feels that he's finally gonna get his hands on this son of a bitch who has been just fucking with them the last couple of weeks, really since the series started. And then next we have Valiant and Hannah. Valiant again is vowing revenge for the cowardly attack that Brandon James carried out last week. Basically all he's saying here is, "Brandon, I called you out at the beginning of the show, and I figured you would be man enough to come out and face me. Instead, you waited until after I had been through a hell of a match with Squeaky McLean, after I beat McLean fair and square, and then you want to come out and you want to attack me from behind? You want to have that little witch, Chrissy Angel, attack my girlfriend from behind? You want to beat us down and assault us from behind? Well, at Nothing to Lose, there won't be nothing coming from behind. It's going to be me and you in the ring, one-on-one. And I'm going to get revenge. I'm going to redeem myself. And I'm going to fight for the pride of my girlfriend. All that you've done these last couple of weeks. It ends at Nothing to Lose." Here we have Jimmy Hernandez versus James Prudence. Jimmy Hernandez defeats Prudence in 7:32 by pinfall with a super kick. C plus 70. I want to try to start having kind of like WCW did back in the 90s, where on the TV shows we kind of have a match for every fan that may view it. You know, a match between two technical guys, a match between two guys that can do the high spots and the flippy shit. And this would fit that description. Both guys have a heavy independent background. James Prudence, I believe, was with Coastal Zone Championship Wrestling. And Jimmy Hernandez started in Maw. He's more or less a Maw legend. I believe he's won the world title there. He might have actually been the first ever Ripcord Invitational winner. I can't remember. But both of these guys are kind of indie legends, so more or less they just have an indie-rific match, if you will. A lot of flying around, a lot of high spots, extremely fast-paced action. And Hernandez picks up the win because, of course, as I mentioned a couple episodes back, it might have been the first one or the second one, the main event is kind of short on baby faces. So I kind of want to start pushing Jimmy and see if we can't break him into the main event scene organically. Here we have an angle between the Crippler and Jack Bruce. I got a new render for the Crippler. I quite like that one. But basically Bruce is in a matchup next. So Bruce comes out and he does his entrance, and before his opponent makes his entrance, the Crippler gets on the screen, and he tells Bruce, you attacked me last week, which I don't understand. I haven't done anything to you. You demanded a match against me in a cage. I don't understand why you're so eager to get your hands on me. I mean, I was in a match last week. We have a match booked already, Jack. You're just gonna have to wait till the show, buddy. And Bruce is seething. He's pissed off because he wants his hands on the Crippler. Remember, this rivalry all started when the Crippler, he was Lobster Mask at the time, or Lobster Warrior, whatever the fuck. And he attacked Jack Bruce with a steel chair and then did a tombstone pile driver on that steel chair, putting Jack Bruce out of action for a while, and could have ended his career. So Bruce is pissed off, understandably so, and the Crippler is kind of just he's trying to make it seem like it wasn't a big deal, like what he did was normal, and it's obvious by the promo that he gave and kind of by his facial expressions. He doesn't really want any of Jack Bruce, and he's not too eager to be stuck in a cage with Jack Bruce at this point. So then Bruce has a match against Frederic Antonio Garcia. Jack Bruce wins in 9:47 by pinfall with a New York Minute. This is basically Bruce just taking out his aggression on Garcia. Bruce controls pretty much 80% of the match. Frederic gets a little bit of offense in the kind of in the midway to I'll say this: Jack Bruce took the opening part of the match, the lower mid-card part of the match, and the first half of the mid-card part of the match. Frederic Garcia, maybe an eye poke, maybe use the referee between them, and just some underhanded tactics to kind of get an upper hand through the latter half of the mid-card and through the first half of the upper mid-card, and then Bruce took back control in the rest of the upper mid-card. And then in the go-home sequence of the match, the main event, if you will, Bruce kind of just took it to Garcia. That was a horrible comparison. But basically, that's kind of how I saw this going. Bruce controls the match up to maybe the 6-minute mark. Garcia has it maybe for between the 6 and 8 minute mark. And then Bruce just gets in with his comeback and puts a little bit of salt and pepper on his punches, his kicks, and then hits his finish. And then afterwards, Bruce gets on the microphone. He responds to the Crippler. Crippler, you say it's not a big deal. You tried to end my career, you son of a bitch. I never thought somebody that I trusted, somebody that I considered a friend, would betray me in such a way. There's a couple of reasons why I asked Jerry Eisen to make this a cage match. One, you keep running from me. You don't want to fight me. You don't want to be face to face in the same ring with me. And you know what? I don't blame you, because at this point I'll rip your head off, you son of a bitch. The other reason I want you in a cage match, I know how much you don't like cages. You see, you used to take the appearance of a lobster, and you're going to be caught in my cage, and you're not going to escape. I'm going to beat you from one end of that cage to the other. And by the time I'm done with you, Crippler, by the time I'm done with you, Chris, Lobster, whatever the hell you want to call yourself, you're going to be unrecognizable, and you're going to have to put that ugly mask back on your ugly little face. I'm going to beat you bloody. I'm going to batter you. I'm going to destroy you, Crippler. You try to end my career, you can believe that I'm going to try to end yours. So we see Bruce, he has a little bit of an edge, and he's kind of teetering a little bit. That wasn't very, he's not giving a very babyface promo. That's, he almost goes overboard, and he's just, you can sense the anger and sense the frustration, not just in his voice, but his posture, the way that he's standing. He has a very aggressive demeanor, and And then he really wants to beat the Crippler's ass at this point. So now we have Paul Huntingdon, the aristocrat, and he's in this fancy ass room. He's sitting on a fancy ass chair, not necessarily a throne, but a big fucking chair, and it's all decked out. He has fucking paintings on the wall of people with the powder face and the powder wigs, and on his lap he's kind of polishing up the North American title, Joey Morgan's North American title. If you remember, when Hell Freezes Over, Morgan won the match, but Huntingdon took the title after the match and has had it ever since. So he's talking to himself, talking to the title. It's kind of weird, and then he looks up. Joey, Brett, you guys don't stand a chance. This is my title, and I'm going to claim it properly at Nothing to Lose. And then he goes back to polishing the title, and he ends it giving it a kiss, which is kind of weird, but he's a weird character. Alright, so next we have Joey Morgan, and this is a backstage interview, so of course he saw what Huntingdon had to say, and he goes, Paul, you're not going to claim shit. That's my title, that's my belt, I beat your ass, and then you ran off with my title. And as for Brett Starr, he beat me on a technicality. Hell, as far as I'm concerned, I won that match. I beat the hell out of him from start to finish. Just because he got the 3 count on some BS memes doesn't mean anything to me. I'm still the champ. And Paul, I'm gonna take my title back. So now we have our main event. Gilmore, Rogue, and Remo. In a 77B, Gilmore, Rogue, and Remo fight to a draw, a no contest rather. All hell breaks loose at the end. Masked Assassin 1 and 2 target all 3 opponents. They all, both of them they beat the shit out of these 3 guys after they've had a hell of a match. It's a 20-minute match. So these 3 guys are sucking wind. They're beat up. Any match with Remo, if you're in a match with Remo, you're going to be pretty beat up by the end of it. Gilmore's a superb technical wrestler, so he's putting these 2 guys in all different kinds of holds. He's stretching them. He's inflicting pain. And then Rogue, on the other hand, you can never count him out. He's slippery, he's slimy. He always knows what moves to make at what time to kind of garner the upper hand. And as all 3 guys are kind of down, the way I picture it is probably about the 1930 mark. They just had a huge exchange, and all 3 guys are just laying in the ring, kind of in a triangle of sorts, and then they all they stand up at the same time, and as they're closing the gap, they look tired. They already look like they've been through hell, and then these 2 masked assassins just run in from opposite sides of the crowd. And they're 2 big guys, so they slide into the ring, and they do like a body avalanche on Gilmore and Rogue, and then do a double clothesline on Remo, and then start posting them, throwing their shoulders into the post, throwing them into the barricade, into the steel steps. They brutalize these 3 guys. They put Gilmore through the announcer's desk. They pull out 2 more tables and do power bombs simultaneously to Rogue and Remo through these classic tables. It's a brutal assault. They really beat the shit out of these 3 guys, and because they've been in a 20-minute match, They can't necessarily fight back like they would normally if they were 100% healthy. So, this is kind of the segment that I just talked about where the two guys just beat the hell out of these three. And then we see Vengeance come out. All the lights go out as the two assassins are kind of standing in the ring surveying their damage. And then the lights come back on and Vengeance is behind them. And the crowd, you can just sense them like it's an oh shit moment. Vengeance is here on Supreme TV. And he's here to be the avenging angel part of his persona. So he starts taking it to these two guys 2-1. It's kind of a 50-50 brawl. Even with these two guys, Vengeance is a legend of this company, a legend of this industry, and he's a big motherfucker in his own right. I would say he's even bigger than Remo. But of course the numbers game, like it generally always does, becomes a little bit too much for Vengeance. So they get him into the corner and they start punching and kicking and whatnot. And then Vengeance gets a hope spot in. He throws one over the top rope and starts to take it to. The other one punches, kicks, maybe whips him into the ropes, does a fucking gorilla press slam or something, because he's a big motherfucker. And then seemingly out of nowhere, Eric Eisen slides under the bottom rope and takes out Vengeance's knee, does a chop block or something like that. And then he's basically orchestrating at this point the two masked assassins to basically destroy Vengeance. So they bring another table into the ring. They do a double power bomb and put him through the table. And Eisen is standing over Vengeance's body, which has been put through a table. He holds his title into the air as he's staring down at Vengeance, and then he stares at the hard camera and he winks as our show goes off the air. Show got a 75 B-. Evidently the game doesn't think I'm booking the storylines interesting enough. We lost popularity in every region. That's okay. With the story that we're telling with this main event storyline, I do have an end result in mind. Getting there may not necessarily lead us to the best ratings in the game, but as I've said before, I'm more about the story that I'm trying to tell as opposed to the ratings that these segments get. So next week will be next week is the pay-per-view. So this was the go-home show. So tune in next time for SWF's Nothing to Lose.